poor Timothy's got some post-traumatic stress, I'm sure.
I think he really does, and that's the scary part. Anyway, we'll going on break. We'll be back for the last half an hour. You're listening to Gary and James Chrisbaum on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
One day while reading history, I paused to take a sigh about the land Afghanistan, where empires go to die. Alexander the Great, he tried and failed. The Mongols, they did too. The British and the Russians, they got their ass kicked too. America's been there many years, and I ask myself why we don't learn from history, where empires go to die. They say it's terrorism, that's political malarkey. Just follow where the money goes to a corporate oligarchy. The food crops they once grew with a plow and a hoe been turned into opium poppies, growing row on row. Our infrastructure's crumbling, our social structure too. It's a corporate scam, they don't give a damn while screwing over me and you. Public outrage, I don't hear no public cry about sending young men and women where empires go to die. We lost people and treasure in Vietnam, and there still ain't no upside. We're doing the same in a no-win game where empires go to die. It's a new world order agenda with a demonic rising tide. They want America's soul in a deep dark hole where empires go to die.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
And this is Gary, and I also have my good friend James on the line here tonight. I can tell you what, the weekend, I can't wait for it. It's been a good week and probably a very sad week. Lost one of my loves in my life, my little dog that I've had for 17 years. It was like part of the family. The last year and a half, 2 years, it was totally blind, and we had to put her in diapers, but she was functioning fine. And she passed away yesterday in my arms, and I'm still kind of rebounding on it, so I'm not quite my normal self here tonight. James, are you still there?
Yes, I am, and that's tough. I mean, that's like losing a family member. That's tough on anybody.
Well, like I lost my other dog, 6 months ago, and it was a part terrier, part poodle I had for 20 years. It also passed away in my arms, and it was, it's hard, but thank God I was there for that moment.
It was, and I won't go into it, but what you told me, that was very, very touching. It was very meaningful to both of you.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. When my dog passed away in my arms, I gave it mouth to mouth, and she revived for about 5 minutes. And what was interesting is she had cataracts. So bad her eyes were white. She could not see. Even the light, you could shine the bright light in her eyes. She couldn't even see it. What I noticed yesterday when all this started transpiring just before airtime, which made it really tough, is that when I was holding her eye cleared up normal. The white went away from the cataracts, and she was looking at things, and she would follow her eye would follow my hand movement. It's like all of a sudden she was able to see after a couple years not seeing. And, she was licking me, and then she passed away. I brought her back, and I don't want to go into it anymore, but I'll tell you, it was hard. But, I think God out there, sometimes, regardless if you're a human or if you're an animal, I think there had to be closure there. And I think there was closure for the dog, and there was closure for me yesterday. And I thank God for, giving us that time to happen. But I want to get into abductions more. It seems like people going through these abductions, it has done something to them. Either they are insecure afterwards, the ones that remember, or they don't. I don't know. It's like I said earlier, being abducted, having an implant, and remembering what happened to you. If maybe you're one of the ones they couldn't hypnotize, or if they gave you some type of drug or whatever to erase your mind, or a brain wave that erases your mind, it didn't work on you. And you remember the implant. You remember them sticking needles in you, cutting you open and doing experiments on you. And then you have to live with that for the rest of your life. I would find it so hard to want to go to bed at night and sleep, because I'd be scared every minute I would be alone. I could be abducted again.
Absolutely. Because, listen, here's the scenario about this whole thing is what you're saying is that there is nothing you can do to stop it. You are totally powerless no matter what. And that thought alone, that takes away all hope. And when you have no hope, man, that is just doom. It's awful. It's awful. And you're going to bed at night knowing that maybe this is the night they're going to come back and take you for a picnic, and it's not going to be fun.
Well, yeah, but could you realize the emotional damage it would do to an individual for the rest of their life? I don't think if you could remember being implanted, if you remember being abducted several times, how could you actually, hold a normal job or even get to your full abilities of life? Because that is going to be weighing you down. Absolutely,
and like I touched on earlier, you might not remember it, but subconsciously you're not going to let it go. You're going to know it. And while you were through your experience in the abduction and the ship, whatever they're doing to you with all these instruments, again, your smell, your sight, your feel, you're going to come across things in everyday life that's going to trigger that thought back in your head maybe several times a day, and you're going to relive that experience all over again. That's horrific.
And over again. It's funny. You can have the most pain, like a woman giving birth to a baby goes through enormous amount of pain, right? But pain is funny. As soon as the pain stops, you forget about the pain. After you hurt yourself, like when I got hurt, for 2.5 months, I was in living pain like you wouldn't believe, to the point I couldn't take it any longer. But then all of a sudden, the pain all went away, and now I don't remember what the pain was, other than I remember I went through it, but I can't feel it again. And to have a scar in your mind of that would be so much damaging for the rest of your life. Now, I am going to talk about my situation, and I didn't think anything of it after having a couple people on my show that claimed they were abducted. I took a job and moved to North Carolina. My marriage at that time was really iffy. I didn't like North Carolina. I did work in New Bern, North Carolina. This is back in the early 70s. I came from Seattle, Washington, and my wife at the time, her father was a port commissioner of one of the cities. Well-to-do family. We were lied to by the recruiter They said, you'll love it. It's just like Seattle. It wasn't, okay? It was really bad, at least then. Anyway, I'm not knocking New Bern, North Carolina. It undoubtedly is not the same as it was 50 years ago, okay? So let's just drop that part. Now, what I can say is when I decided to leave and come back home, I have to grant it, I drove nonstop from North Carolina to Seattle. Nonstop. I lived on no-dose. Caffeine, big dosages of caffeine pills, and drinking a lot of coffee. And it kind of like kept me awake, like I couldn't close my eyes. But when we got into New Mexico, I had a GTO. It went fairly fast. I remember that, out of the city, the speed limits were really crazy high. You could go really high compared to Washington State at the time. And I was cruising really fast late at night. And we were going into the desert. I remember that much. And what I found was that all of a sudden, the car lit up all around the car like daylight, maybe even brighter. It lit up the whole inside of the car. I mean, the whole car was like lit up inside. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is a helicopter. Okay, for some reason, maybe I'm getting pulled over by the state police or whatever. So I figured I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to pull off the side of the road. So I pull off the side of the road. My wife at the time was going hysterical. She was going crazy because, I mean, if you lived through that, it was really weird, okay? I pull off the side of the road. I get out of the car. And all I remember is it was totally quiet. No sound at all. Now, I was in the military. I know what helicopters sound like. The egg beater sound. I know what a helicopter, especially in that time frame, what the helicopters sound like. There was nothing. And I remember it was so bright. It was like brighter than daylight. It was hurting my eyes so bad. I kind of looked up to see what it was, and poof, it was gone. Now, I was stupid. There was a car behind us, maybe about 1,000 feet or 500 feet. Hard to judge at night. I should have, and it was stopped too. I should have went over there and talked to the people, okay, or waited till they moved. So whatever I saw, they saw my car getting lit up, okay? But I didn't think anything of it. I was young. I was naive. I was stupid. So, I remember getting back in the car. My wife was still freaking out, and she was paranoid. She was looking out the window, like for UFOs for hours and hours, scared that, there was an UFO following us. I just kind of, at that age, I just kind of blew it off. Didn't think anything of it, James, till I had a couple guests on my show about abductions. And it started making me wonder, what experience I went to. And then it dawned on me, one of my children at the time, which was adult, got in trouble with the law. Okay, and, I had to bail him out of jail. I had to get an attorney, and I had to go to court with him every single month to keep him from going bye-bye, okay? And I had to go to the courthouse with him once a month in Pierce County. Now, they were set up with metal detectors and all this stuff. I would go through the door or the back door. It didn't matter which of the two entrances I went into the courthouse. I would set off the alarm. And I remember I'd have to take my belt off. I'd have to empty all the change, empty my pockets, and I'd still set the alarm off. Okay, so then they get their wand out. And then they would, there it is. And then they start thinking, okay, well, you've maybe got something under your clothes. Okay, so then they would take me into a special room. That happened a couple times. Don't like gloves. I don't like going in a special room, and I don't like that. I remember one time there was a couple hundred people, in the lobby of the courthouse, and people coming through, and I had to take my belt off, okay? And my pants fell down to my knees. Rather embarrassing, okay? But I didn't think anything of that. I'd never connected that to my experience in the desert in New Mexico. Never. Okay? Now, I injured myself, and, the doctor